Ready? Everybody ready? So Tisha's gonna make a siyum afterwards. Got a little admired. And we need a few more people, but yeah. Okay, well. Let's start posting. Okay, welcome. Wednesday night shir, meeting on Monday night. This week only as far as we know, because Wednesday night scheduled to be Tisha B'Av. So therefore we're meeting tonight. And the topic tonight is we're going to learn one of the pirushim from the Sefer Megaleh Amukos. Megaleh Amukos, the revealer of the depths. This was written by Reb Nosson Nota Shapiro, who was born in Krakow in 1585, and he passed away in 1633 in Poland. And this Sefer Megaleh Amukos, he wrote, Reish Nun Beis Oifanim al Parshas V'Aschanim, 252 ways, 252 explanations on Parshas V'Aschanim, which is this week, is the V'Aschanim, or specifically on the first, really one or two psukim of V'Aschanim. We know the beginning of the Parsha is Moshe is pleading to Hashem to let him into Eretz Yisrael, and eventually Hashem says to him, not eventually, but in the second pasuk, he says, Rav Loch, enough already. Rav Loch is Gematria 252. So Megaleh Amukos came up with 252 commentaries on this inyan. Why indeed was Moshe Rabbeinu not allowed into Eretz Yisrael? 252 different ways. Interestingly, he also mentions elsewhere that he wrote another sefer with even more interpretations on the small aleph in the word Vayikra. 1,000 interpretations on the small aleph in the word Vayikra. We don't have that sefer. He also wrote a commentary on the Chumash, which is also called Megaleh Amukos. And he also wrote a commentary on the Rif, one of the great Rishonim. When he was 31 years old, he became the Rosh Yeshiva in Krakow. He was also a Darshan. I guess he was, I don't know if he was exactly the Rav or just the Darshan, I'm not sure. But in any event, he never accepted payment for anything he did. Any of his communal responsibilities, I won't take any money for it. That's what he always said, no money. He had an extraordinary memory, and he had a knack for numbers, as we're going to see. He must have had a mathematical mind. Some people have science minds or philosophical minds. Other people have mathematical minds. That must be what he had. We're going to see. And he passed away on July 20th, today's July 20th, by the way. On July 20th, 1633, his yahrzeit is the 13th of the month of Av. So his yahrzeit is coming up. So we are going to learn one of the 252 commentaries of his on Parshas V'Aschanim. Maybe we'll do one a year. We'll see. This is Reish Ches. This is the Oifen Reish Ches. This is way number 208. Okay. Now, the little disclaimer is I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain everything here because I don't know if I understand everything here. But I'm going to do my best. We're going to read through it, and we'll explain a little bit more, explain a little bit less, and strap in your seatbelt. It's a wild ride. And it's probably unlike anything you've ever learned. So I thought that people would appreciate learning. I think everybody here knows that I have interest in different types of svarim and new svarim. I don't mean new per se, but the Sefer is not new, but the new to us or just different kind of experimenting and looking around. And I'm a big fan of that. I think as people here know. So here we go. With no further ado, the Megaleh Amukos way interpretation number 208 on Parshas V'Aschanim. Rotza Moshe lahamtik ulasakin be'eretz Yisrael hakilkul hagodol sheba mechet adam harishon. Moshe Rabbeinu, the reason he wanted to enter Eretz Yisrael is because he wanted to make a tikkun. He wanted lahamtik to sweeten and to make a tikkun to rectify in Eretz Yisrael the kilkul hagodol, the great damage that was done as a result of chet adam harishon, the sin of Adam harishon. What did Adam harishon? What happened as a result of the sin? What ended up being, if you will, infected into Chava. The Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos daf kuf mem vav, kuf mem aleph umar aleph. It says, B'shah shabon nachash al Chava, when the snake had sexual relations with Chava. Don't ask me what that means, but that's what it says in Gemara. When the snake had sexual relations with Chava, he infected her with zuhama. Zuhama in the Koran Gemara translates it as moral contamination. So he infected her with moral contamination. What does it mean? Basically, it means that you can't see the truth. the truth becomes obscured and things are not clear anymore. You have to search for the truth. So he infected her with this, and Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be mamtik, he wanted to sweeten it, and he wanted to make a tikkun for it. Now, when it comes to sweetening something, there's two ways to do that. Option number one is you have something that's bitter. How do you sweeten it? You put sugar in it. When you put sugar in it, now it's sweet. However, that's only one way to sweeten things. And that doesn't actually sweeten the thing itself. It just adds a sweetener that's overpowering any bitterness. That's one way to sweeten things. Another way to sweeten things, however, is to transform the thing itself, that it ceases to be bitter or sharp and it becomes sweet. For example, I don't know if there's any gourmet French chefs here, but if you ever take an onion, a raw onion, many people don't like it, whatever, it's sharp, it's bitter, it's whatever, but if you slowly saute it, a little bit of olive oil, slowly saute it, it turns brown, and it becomes actually sweet. So that's another way to sweeten something. Which way did Moshe Rabbeinu want? I don't know. I'm just adding my own color commentary here that there's two ways to sweeten things. But that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael because he wanted to rectify and sweeten the moral contamination that had entered the world as a result of the sin of Adam and Chava, that the Nachash, the snake, infected her with this zuhama, with this moral contamination. Or as he goes on to say, that the Shahait al-Anash v'Chava chof dalet zine de mesoavuso. He infected her with 24 categories of impurity. Mesoavuso is Aramaic for tumah. He infected her with 24 categories of impurity. Like it says in the Zohar, al pozik ve'eva oshis. Right after the sin, right after they eat, what happens? The Torah tells us, ve'eva oshis bein chol ve'no isha. I will place Eva. Eva translates as hatred or enmity. I will place hatred between you and your husband. That's what happens. In Minyan, Ve'eva, what's the gematria of Ve'eva? Vav is 6, plus Aleph is 1 is 7, plus 10, that's the Yud, is 17, plus the base is 2, that's 19, plus Pei is 5 is 24. Right? I did the math right? Ve'eva is gematria 24. And there were 24 categories of Tuma that Chava was infected with, so to speak. I guess not just Chava, really, but the entire world, really. She brought that into the world. Adam and Chava brought it into the world. Kiminyan ve'eva, hetelanach zuhama. The gematria of the word ve'eva, enmity, hatred, that's what the snake put into the world. That before the sin, Chava was a kala. She was a bride. She married Adam Rishon. And Hashem adorned her, our sages tell us, with 24 types of jewelry, 24 types of adornments. Like Chazal say in the Zohar, al pasuk vayivi'eha el ha'adam. Right? He took the rib out and he created, poof, presto, created Chava, and then V'yivi'el, he brought her to Adam. V'yivi'el is melamed shekisha d'Kadosh Baruch Hu l'Chava v'chavta al-tachshitin. This pasuk V'yivi'eha el Adam, he brought her to Chava, teaches us that Hashem adorns her with 24 types of jewelry. Where do we see that in this pasuk? Simple. V'lom d'razal mimilas V'yivi'eha shechos yud achar beis. That if you look in a Sefer Torah and you see the word Vayivi'eha in the Sefer Torah and he brought her, it's not spelled with, it only has one yud. There's no yud after the base. Shubachesh Chavdal. Vav, yud, base, aleph, hey, is gematria 24. So that's Chazal tell us, the Zohar tells us that Hashem gave her 24 types of jewelry. And then opposite of that, there were 24 types of tumah. Okay. In these letters, he brought her to Adam. That's the 24 types of adornments of jewelry. That's a positive thing. Comes along the snake. He turns it over. He turns it around. Eva. Vayivi'eha is the same letters as ve'eva. It's the same letters. So he took Vayivi'eha. He brought her to Adam. Gave her 24 types of jewelry, he turns it around and turns it into Eva, to enmity, to hatred. Then so that was no good. Then came along the three Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They were masaking. They made a rectification of the three ketarin as a kesher in Aramaic, a knot. The three knots of Adam Harishon. What does it mean? I think what it means is that it says that in a certain way, Adam Harishon transgressed with all three cardinal sins. What are the cardinal sins? Shvichus domim, murder, avodah zara, idolatry, and gilui arayos, and sexual immorality. So Adam didn't actually do those things, but he did what was the shayrish, what was the root of those things. How so? Well, shvichus domim is murder, killing. So he brought death into the world. Because before Adam Harishon sinned, there was no death in the world. So when he sinned, now there's death in the world. So that's shvichus domim, that's murder. Then avodah zara, idolatry, what's that? Well, he listened to the snake instead of listening to Hashem. Hashem said, don't eat. He's like, oh, the snake said I should eat. That's avodah zara. It's a foreign goal. Why listen to the snake for? Then Gilui Arayos, illicit relationships. He didn't really do that, but he separated from Chava after this. They separated. I think it says 130 years or something. They separated. Comes along a voice, and they made a tikkun on that. They rectified that. How so? Avraham rectified the avodah zara. The sin of avodah zara was that he listened to the snake instead of Hashem. But who does Avram listen to? Hashem. Hashem says, take your kid up on the mountain. Okay, no problem. So he rectified that. Then you have Yitzchak, which he rectifies Shvichus Domim, and Yaakov rectifies Gilui Arayos. Okay, because it says he's Yaakov's Mitosai Shlema. He was the only one of the kids of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who all his children went in the proper path. Okay. So we have, originally, everything's okay. Hashem gives Chava 24 types of jewelry. Then comes along the snake and comes the sin, and the snake transforms the 24 types of jewelry into 24 types of tumah. Then come along the Avos, and they rectify that. So we're back and forth, right? And then Vidality Mois, the four mothers, Tiknu Ito Shel Chava, they fix the bite, if you will, the bite of Chava. Okay. Then V'chozra Shvatim. So everything was good. Then it goes back not so good again. Come the Shvatim. The kilkul b'shas mechilas Yosef. Oh boy, did they mess up! They sold Yosef. So whatever was good that the Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov had rectified came along the Shvatim and they messed it up. And look at this. Itmar Sham. What does it say when it's talking about the sale of Yosef? The pasuk says, "Vayomer aleim Yosef bayoyim hashlishi." Is Rashi Tevis ve'eva. The same word, the same ve'eva. It comes back again. It's the same thing is coming back again. So we're keeping visited by ve'eva. And don't forget this, because, spoiler alert, this is not the last time we're going to see this. Ve'eva. Vayomer aleim Yosef. And Yosef said to them on the third day, that's in the whole story when they're down in Egypt already, Rashi Tevis ve'eva. That's before they went down to Egypt, right? That caused them the Golus Mitzrayim. So everything was great after the August, and then the Shvatim. Fine. Now we're redeemed from Egypt. We leave Egypt. What does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, what does that spell? Today you were leaving in the spring month. The same word, the enmity. It's a tikkun for the words again. Now it's rectified. Now it's fixed. That now Hashem is hinting to us as Megaleh. How did he figure this stuff out? I don't know. By the way, I do know actually. I'm sorry. I do know how he figured it out. It's written on his matzeva, on his tombstone, that he saw Eliyahu Hanavi face to face. Now, most of us wouldn't write that, even if it wasn't true. So. Says on his matzeva, he saw Eliyahu Hanavi, so that's probably how he knew. But anyway, so comes the redemption from Egypt. Now everything's good again, right? Redeemed from Egypt. So the pasuk says, now today you are leaving in the month that's in the spring. Rashi Tevis ha'eva. This is now the rectification. This is Hashem hinting to us in the pasuk that now is the time that the zuhama, the impurity, the moral contamination that exists amongst people, especially between husband and wife, will stop. It was there, and again, we're going back and forth. Shehi Soid Hashchina. I'm not sure exactly what that's supposed to mean. This is the secret of the divine presence. Fine. Now, when the Jewish people arrived after Yetzias Mitzrayim at Har Sinai, so when we left Egypt, it was only Higiyazman. It only was the time has arrived that the impurity should cease, but didn't yet cease. Now we stand at Mount Sinai, and the Gemara in Yevamos tells us, Har Sinai and Oz Pascha Zu Amasan. The Gemara in Yevamos says that then the Zuhama, the impurity, the moral contamination, done. Har Sinai, the revelation at Mount Sinai was so intense, so powerful, it washed away any schmutz. And therefore, Lachein hayu haluchos ksuvim mizeh umizeh. That's why it says the luchos were written on both sides, right? It says in the luchos it was benes hayu oimdim. The letters stood miraculously, which is many different opinions about what that means. Some say it means that like a samach or a mem sofit, which have the middle piece in it. How is that floated? Others say that if you read it from the front of the luchos or the back of the luchos, it looked you read it front to back. Many different opinions of what exactly it means, but in any event. So the luchos for ksuvim, quote, mizeh umizeh. On this side and on that side, hold that in your memory. Namely, what was the size of the luchos? Shekol luach haya vav b'oirich, vav reichav. Each luach, each one of the tablets, was 6 tvachim wide, long or tall, and 6 tvachim, it was 6 by 6. They were square, right? 6 by 6. Harei, yud beis tvachim kol luach. So each one of the tablets is 12 tvachim, right? 6 by 6 is 12. How many tablets were there? Pop quiz. 2. 12 times 2 is 24. Back to 24 again. Back to 24. Harei, yud beis tvachim kol luach nimtza bebeis luach zayochav dal tvachim. So 24 tvachim. So again, we're back to the magic number of 24. This is the secret in the pasuk that the Torah tells us they were carved out, the letters on this side and on that side. Mizeh umizeh. What's the matter with mizeh?
He says.
No, just mizeh. I'm sorry, zeh. 12. Zayin is 7. Hey is 5. That symbols are 12. 12 and 12 is 24. Mizeh umizeh. 24. Again, the size was 24 and they're carved. Mizeh umizeh, they're carved 24. And that was a mystical neutralization or nullification of the 24 types of tumah that we learned before that Chava injected into the world. I'm sorry, that the snake injected into the world. And therefore, there's more. That's not over yet. There's more. B'shas egel. When it came time, Moshe comes down from the mountain and he sees the Jewish people sitting with the Egel Azav. When they sinned with the Egel Azav, the Tumah came back. They messed up again. And therefore, therefore, 24 generations later, was Nigbe, was so to speak, repaid the Choiv Shel Egel. The debt, thank you, of the Egel. Namely, what was 24 generations later? The destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. So you have the 24 generations, which leads to the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. That's from Nachshon ben Aminadab to Yechonyu Melech Yehuda. 24 generations that corresponds to 24 types of tumah that the Nachash brought in. And you have no pekuda, no like repayment, if you will. Meaning any punishment for sin in this world has chelik chuf daled, a 1/24th behechre, means like a surplus of a litra, whatever measure that is. I don't know if it's meant to be an actual liter, but it's a measure in the Gemara of the Egel. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin that ein l'chol kol peronus uperonus sheba'a lo'olam she'ein bo echad me'esim ba'arba behechre litra shel Egel. You don't have any punishment. There's no punishment in the world that doesn't have 1/24th of a surplus from the sin of the Egel. So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin. So every sin is in some way related to the Egel, and it's 1/24. Again, 24. Also by the Meraglim who sinned, And we ended up in the desert for 40 years. This is also hinted to. Kamasha Kosov, the Pasuk says, your corpse, you're going to fall in this desert. Rosh Tevis, ve'eva, and enmity. We just had the Parsha Shlach. Upara Duma, the red heifer, which fixes all of this, right? What does the red heifer do? What does the Paraduma do? It purifies a person from the most severe tumah, from tumas mace. Chava brought tumas mace into the world, brought the mace into the world. So Paraduma she refuah legel. It marsham pasuk of neatzmai. It says a pasuk about the egel is about the Paraduma. It says v'chol asher yigaboy hatome. Any Tomei person who touches it, Shahu Gam Kain Rashi Tebas Ve'eva. It's again Ve'eva. The enmity, the anger is being neutralized by the Paraduma. So Vihini B'Shas Churban, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Oz Nifra Choyv Shaleget. So the Choyv, the night, hopefully we're not going to have to read it. It's hinted to in the beginning of the book of I mean, it's Tanakh anyway, right? You can read it. It's hinted to in the beginning of the Pasuk in Eicha Yoshva Badad, how we have sat in solitude. Ha'ir, the city that was Rabbasiyam, the city that was of so many multitude, so many people. Haisa, it continues, Haisa Ka'almana was like a widow. So what is it? Eicha Yoshva Badad Ha'ir Rabbasiyam Haisa Rashi Tevis Evara. Bad hatred, Evara. It's all related to the Churban. It's all related to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. All of this is interconnected. There's an interplay between all these things. And we said at the beginning, Moshe Rabbeinu wants to make a tikkun on that. He wants to sweeten it. And furthermore, Bagam Bakan Ramaz Moshe, even also here, meaning in our Parsha of Aschanan, which he's giving now interpretation 208 of 252 on this. Gam Bakan Ramaz Moshe Barashi Asvan, here it's alluded to in the first letters. V'aschanan el Hashem bo'esahi Rashi Tevis ve'eva. Again, ve'eva. It keeps coming back and back. Like, how do you feel? How does he fly his stuff? That this is telling us that in order to rectify those very 24 types of tumah, remember, ve'eva, that's the hatred that was brought into the world, the enmity that was brought into the world through the Nachash, into Chava, Adam and Chava in the world, the 24 types of jewelry she had, the Nachash transformed them into 24 types of tumah. Moshe said, I want to rectify that. I want to sweeten that. I need to go into Eretz Yisrael for that. That's why I wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael to fix that. I want to go in. And therefore, look in Pasuk Hashem Shal Adnai. That's why he uses the name of Hashem, the Adnai, the Shem Adnus, which says Hashem is the Adon, is the master. That's Vaschanan El Hashem. Hashem, and then it says Hashem Elokim. Hashem, why is it Hashem? Sheyesh Hashem shall Adnai Chob Dal Tzirufim. Because you could take the letter Adnai, Aleph Dal Nun Yud, and how many ways could you arrange it? 24 different ways. 24. Besoid. Al Yoshu Dach Nichlam. Tehillim. What does it mean? Don't let not the poor, the Dach is the poor. Al Yoshu, don't let the poor return Nichlam, in disgrace. Don't let the poor turn back in disgrace. What's the Rosh Tevis? This time it's not Ve'eva. Al Yoshu Dach Nichlam. Let not the poor turn back in disgrace. Rosh Tevis Adnai. It's the Shem Adnus, the Shem of the Master. Chav Dalid, Hem Chav Dalid Tzidin Adnai. The 24 is the 24 combinations of the letters Aleph Dalid Nun Yud. Vehem Soid Sar Hashmini Shekasav Mekubah Rav Moshe Devero. This is the secret of the Sar Hashmini. I don't know what that means. The 8th minister. I don't know what that means. That the Mekubal, the Ramak, Rav Moshe Devero wrote that that if you have this intention, this kavanah when you daven, oz tfilos and ishmas. What's the kavanah? This kavanah, I think, if I understand what he's saying here, is the kavanah that Hashem is the master. Hashem is in charge of the world. What do you say before you start the Shemoneh Esrei? Hashem supposed to be the Aleph Dal Nun Yud. You have to say that before you start davening. Why? Because you have to accept that He is the Adon, He's the master. And if you accept that, then Hashem will hear your prayers. That's what the Ramak said. That's hinted to in this pasuk. Let not the poor turn back in disgrace. It's alluded to of the shame of the master. Aleph Dal Nun Yud. But so the pasuk, and this can also be found in the pasuk. Oz Yoshem Moshe, and the song of the sea. Oz, Yasher Moshe. Then Moshe will sing Oz. Is Gematria, Aleph and Zion is Gematria 8. How many times does 8 go into 24? 3. So one of those times is Oz, that's 1/8. Or that's 1/3. Uvnei Yisrael, that's Uvnei, and the Jewish people. Vav base, 6 and 2 is 8. So that's the second 8. Vav base mean Uvnei, Chelik Sheni. Ki Ga'oi, that we are proud, how we translate it? Gimel and Hey, because the Aleph, I guess, doesn't make a sound really. So Gimel and Hey, 3 plus 5 is 8 in God. So we have 8, 8, and 8 in this pasuk. That's 8 plus 8 plus 8 is 24. So again, we have 24. And what is that? How many chapters in Masechah Shabbos? 24. Are you surprised? Of course you're not surprised. Of course it's 24 chapters in Masechah Shabbos. What's Shabbos? Shabbos is the Kala. Who was the Kala? Chava was the Kala. So of course there's 24 chapters in Masechah Shabbos. So there's I don't know what this is from, but he says that you have to read or study Mishnayos Shabbos during Shabbos, 8 chapters at each meal of Shabbos. How many meals are there? 3. So study 8 chapters at each meal. 8 times 3 is 24. You get all 24 chapters of Masechah Shabbos. That's the Kala. Shabbos Kala. And that's why it's 24 chapters on Shabbos. Because Shabbos is the Kala, and a Kala wears how many types of jewelry? 24. That's the Gemara we saw before. 24 types of jewelry. V'nirmaz b'pasuk, and this is all hinted to in the pasuk. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael es Shabbos. And the Jewish people kept Shabbos Rashi Tevis. Ve'evim. It's all to make a tikkun. The whole thing is to make a tikkun on the sin of Adam and Chava. Lasakin chavdalad zinid d'misabusa, to rectify the 24 types of tumah, of impurity. B'zeh shekos of achar lasis is a Shabbos. Lasis daika l'deirosom. It says you should make Shabbos l'deirosom for the generation l'deirosom. Ksiv. Not sure what he's trying to say with that exactly. Like it says in Zohar, Tikkun Zohar, b'shem sefer haboyer, be'avira benach merakanti, b'pasha shlach lecha. It's brought over there various places in Kabbalah. And then v'oz hashchina she'er b'bayis. Then you have the shchina in the home. Yeah, klipa. But then the klipa hagar shivcha sara. But klipa, the forces of negativity and impurity, which corresponds to Hagar, who was the maid servant of Sarah. Oimeres, she says, I'm running away from Sarah, meaning that the klipa runs away from the kedusha. It flees from the kedusha, from Sarah. That's why Moshe wanted these 24 different combinations of the name Ba'alaf Dal Nun Yud. And he says, V'omar, now back to Parshas Vaschanan. We deviated from that. Now we're going back to the pasuk. Pasuk is Vaschanan el Hashem b'osei lemor, that I am pleading, I'm supplicating, I'm begging Hashem, b'osei this time, I please let me live there to Yisrael, Moshe says. Then the pasuk continues, Ata hachi loisa lahar ois es avdecha. You have begun to show your servant, shepasachta l'sakin chavdal zini de nachash, shepasachti, I have opened, l'sakin, I'm opening up, meaning I'm trying to endeavor to begin l'sakin chavdal zini de nachash, to rectify the 24 types of impurity of the snake. And he says, Ata hachi loisa. He says to Hashem, you have hachi loisa, like tchila, you have begun. What does that mean on a deeper level? Says the Megaleh Amukos, you can't make this stuff up. Hachiloisa behipuch asvon haluchos. If you take the word hachiloisa, you have begun, and you change around the letters, you rearrange the letters, it spells haluchos, the tablets. So it's all hinted to in the tablets. Shayuchov dalat tfachim kanalik. We mentioned before that the tablets are 24 tfachim mizeh umizeh, which itself zeh is 12. And then, 12 is 24, 24 tefachim. Further, Gam Kibul Chavdal Sforim. How many books in Tanakh? 24. Oirayin Tlisoi, in the 3-part Torah, right? Torah, Nevi, and Yisuf. There's 24 total. And then the pasuk continues in Vaschanan, Es Godlecha, your greatness, the Torah, that refers to the Torah. Yodcha Chazaka, your strong hand, that's a quote from the pasuk again, continuing. That's Nevi'im. That's the prophets. How do we know it's the prophets? It says in Hosea, Uviyad Nevi'im Adam. I will be, I think, compared or something like that, compared to the hand of Nevi'im. So the hand, the Yodcha Chazaka that refers to in the Parsha, refers to the Nevi'im, the prophets. Then the pasuk continues, Asher mi el b'shamayim v'aretz. Who else is a god in the heavens? That refers, that's a hint, that's an allusion to the Ksuvim, the books of the writings. How do you have that? B'soy Ksuvim that's V'Elokim, with the secret of, the pasuk says, it says, B'soy Ksuvim that's V'Elokim, the secret that something's written with the finger of Hashem. That's what it talks about the luchos, and it says in Tehillim, Ki when I see your heavens, the work of your fingers. So that's the Ksuvim. So we have Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim, all hinted to in the pasuk in Vers Chana that Moshe is hinting to. He's saying, I need the 24. I need the Torah. I need to go into Eretz Yisrael. Gam Nirmas Bereshit Tevis. This is also hinted to. That Moshe says to Hashem, we already mentioned this pasuk. He says to Hashem, you have begun to show. Rosh Tevis, oil, the tent. What's the tent? The tent is the oil moed in the Mishkan. The tent. When they built the Mishkan, it says, it says the word shittim, which is the type of acacia wood that they used for part of the Mishkan. It says that word 24 times. Which is also the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva who died in the plague. It's also the 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara in Yevamos that says he had 24,000 students. They all died at the same time. That's Lag Boimer, right? That's the foundation of Torah Shebal Peh. And where was that taught? That was taught in the oil moed. I don't know what that's supposed to mean exactly. That's in the secret of wisdom, the secret of Chachma. And then what happens? Then we had the plague from Parshas Bolak and Pinchas. There was a plague. People were dying. How many people died? 24,000. It's all 24, back to 24 again. And Moshe was hinting to this, and he says, Es Godlacha. Your Torah, Es Godlacha means Torah, B'shas Asiyas HaMishkan. When the Mishkan was built, namely, Moshe couldn't recall exactly how the Vavei Lo Amudim, how the poles basically of the Amudim, of the pillars, were meant to go. Until the neshama of Rabbi Akiva came to Moshe. With the secret of the pasuk, I think it's a pasuk in Parshas Pekudei. And this is not the place to discuss this. So if he says it's not the place to discuss it, so I'm not going to talk. Also because I don't know what it's talking about. Rabbi Akiva, who should dash vavim. Rabbi Akiva would dash in the letter vav. He would interpret it. Taisvus in Sanhedrin. And for the fact that 24,000 people died in Shittim as they were sitting with the daughters of Moab. 24,000, that's again the number 24. The pasuk says, Moshe says to Hashem, Es Yodcha Chazaka, your strong hand. It says in the Zohar and Parshas Pekudei, the chariot above, the supernal chariot, has 24 supports to it. And for that it says in the pasuk, also again back in Parshas Vaskanan, Asher mi el bashamayim. What other god do I have in heaven? Which means in this context, they're just like in the heavens, in the spiritual realms. There's 12,000 something shemakava. There's 24 supports for the supernal chariot. Likewise, in Jerusalem, in a spiritual Jerusalem, there's 24 gates into the spiritual Jerusalem above in the heavens. And therefore, also therefore, down here on planet Earth, Jerusalem also has 24 gates. Because in the spiritual realms, it has 24 gates. 24 coincidence. At this point, there's no coincidences, right? However, the Maisa was that Shlomo HaMelech built the Beis HaMikdash, and he wanted to bring the Aron in. He wanted to bring the Aron to the Beis HaMikdash. The problem was he couldn't get in because the doors were locked. Almost like the doors here in Chabad. The doors were locked. He couldn't get in. It says the doors were slammed shut. They couldn't open them until Shlomo HaMelech sang how many songs? 24. 24 songs. I don't know if you translate Rananois as songs, but some kind of song. These are the 20, what are the 24 songs or songs that he sang? It's in Divrei Hayomim, the 24 from the Pasuk Ha'umnam ad Pasuk Ba'avur David Avdecha. That's Chavdal Psukim. If you look it up, in Divrei Hayomim, 24 Psukim. Called Pasuk Nikra Ranan B'fnei Atzmai. Each Pasuk is one of the songs. And this the Gemara says, in Masechta Berachos, it says, Omar Abai, Talmud Chacham Tzarich Loimer Chad Psuki Berachmi. A Talmud Chacham has to say a pasuk of Berachmi before he learns, before he does anything really. To say a pasuk of Berachmi, of compassion. Hu Asoid, and this is the secret, K'mashu Kosov, of the pasuk in Libi ubesori Yerano el Kelchai. My heart and my flesh will sing to the living God. Pasuk Echad Nikra Rani. One pasuk is called a ranin, a song. Rananu tzadikim b'Hashem. The tzadikim are singing and singing to Hashem. And then it says boil the fun of birnana. Again, come to him, come in front of him. Birnana with rina, with the type of joyous song melody. And therefore, Shlomo HaMelech couldn't get into the Beis Hamikdash. The doors were locked. V'lachin b'mizbar chav daled. In chapter 24 of Tehillim, again 24, Omar David, the gates open up and stop. Because the gates opens the gates, it's the key to opening the gates. That's back to the pasuk in Vaschanan. The pasuk says that I will do whatever your deeds are, whatever you need me to do. That's referring al Nesher Shlomo Masharim. That's the miracle of Shlomo that the gates of the Beis Hamikdash opened up. Again, that's the pasuk in Vaschanan. And like your strengths, that's al Chubin Abayis Shenecher of L'Seif Chav Dal Deiris. That's referring to the Beis Hamikdash that was destroyed 24 generations after Nachshon ben Aminadav. After this time, after the time when we left Egypt. 24 generations later, when we came back for sinning for the Egel Azov, and the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. L'fisha Merkava hu al Chavdalad, and all this is because in the spiritual realms, the Merkava, the chariot, the supernal chariot, has 24 supports. And that is how mispateles hanachash the Chavdalad zinei tumah, and that's how the Nachash, the snake, is neutralized with his 24 types of tumah. Don't worry, it's not over yet. Moshe says, Ebrana, please Hashem, let me pass through. I just want to see if I can even just catch a glimpse. What's na? Please. Na means please. You have to say please? I guess you should say please, right? But he means on a deeper level, Roitzani, this is as if quoting Moshe as if, Roitzani levatelas nachash eva. Ebron, no, please let me pass by. No, please is Rashi Tevis. Nachash Eva, the hatred from the snake. I want to be mevatel. I want to neutralize the hatred that was brought into the world from the sin that the snake brought about. That is to say that the very same enmity, the very same hatred that we spoke about at the beginning of this piece, that the Nachash infected Adam and Chava, an entire world with the moral contamination, with the tumah, with the hatred between husband and wife, between other people. Ve'eva Ashis, the pasuk said, I will place hatred between you, Adam and Chava. Which is Shehein Chavdal Zinei Demasal Abusa. Like we had before from the Zoyar, these are the 24 types of impurity. And therefore, Lazeh Omar Ve'er Haaretz. What does Moshe say? At least let me see the land. If you're not going to let me go into it, I want to at least see it. Give me the chance to see it. But more than see it, I need to come into the land. I have a major job that I need to do, Moshe is telling Hashem. I've got to rectify the whole entire history of humanity, starting from Adam and Chava and the snake who made them sin. And then the Avos fixed it, and then the Shvatim messed it up again, and then they sold Yosef, and then they came out of Egypt, and then Mount Sinai took care of it, but then we had the golden calf. I have to take care of the entire history of humanity. So Moshe is effectively saying, to do that, I need to go into Eretz Yisrael. It's all the Eva. It's all to make a tikkun on this hatred, this enmity. It's all the 24. That's the luchos. That's the gates of Jerusalem, and so on and so forth. Kishon, because there, in Israel, what do we have? Hahara Toiv Hazeh. I have the good mountain. What's the good mountain? Zeir Yerushalayim. And how many gates are there around Yerushalayim? There's 24 gates. So I need the 24. But Birkas Yerushalayim Shabbatila Yesh Chaftal Tevis. Therefore, from the bracha of Uvnei Yerushalayim, there are 24 letters, 24 words. By the way, I took out my siddur and I counted it. It was 25. In the Chabad siddur, 25 words. So in the bracha Uvnei Yerushalayim, in davening, 25 words.
What's the actual word?
I don't know. He says 24 words. Maybe in some other nusach. Why? Why are there 24 words in the bracha of Uvnei Yerushalayim? Okay, we'll look it up in a different nusach over there. Because it's obvious now. Of course, we know why there's 24 words. Because there's 24 gates in Jerusalem. Because the Jerusalem down here is constructed corresponding to the Jerusalem above. And above there's 24 gates. So down here there's also 24 gates. And therefore the bracha has 24 words. And therefore, coming back to Eicha, therefore, back to our pasuk in Megillus Eicha, Eicha Yoshva, but right, Eicha dwelled, or how we said, sat in solitude. Eicha Yoshva Bodad. How have we sat in solitude? Ha'ir Rabosi Om. The city was Rabosi Om, was of many people. So Rabosi Om is Kachashiv Kama V'Chama Chav Dalet Shahayu B'Yerushalayim. So in the Medrash, I actually didn't look it up. This Medrash, I didn't have a chance to look up this Medrash. But he says that he mentions numerous instances of 24s in Jerusalem, such as, he tells us what it is, I just didn't have a chance to actually look it up. Chavdal Shukim, 24 marketplaces. And within each shuk, within each market, there's another 24, I guess, like miniature shuks or alleyways or something like that. No, you don't have it?
It's in Ben Shirish
Manesser. There's 24 markets.
Schleimer, I mean, here it says Bill Schleimer.
Yeah. What did I say? I said Uvnei Yerushalayim.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm pretty sure that's 24. I mean, if I count it,
You're
right?
counting.
If I count it right, it's 24.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah.
24. So either I don't know how to count, or the Chabad one is 25.
I think it's possible. Yeah.
You want to take a Chabad Siddur? We'll see what we're on.
Sure.
So he says that in the Medrash on Eicha, on the Pasuk of Abbasi it mentions numerous instances of 24s happening in Jerusalem. There's 24 shukim, 24 markets, and within each market there's another 24 markets. I guess 24 maybe like alleyways or something. I'm not sure exactly. And each miniature market has another 24 alleyways and so forth. That's why it says v'halvonim and the Lebanon. What is the Lebanon? The Lebanon, Shu Beis Hamikdash. Lebanon is a name for the Beis Hamikdash. Why?
25.
25.
What's the extra word? No, now you gotta ask me to read each part about
Not that much.
We're gonna let it slide though, right? 24, 25, but who's counting? He's the Amukos is counting. That's who's counting. So why is the Beis Hamikdash called Levonin, the whitener? Because it whitens, it whitens the sins. So it's called Levonin. Levon, white. So the Beis Hamikdash is called Levonin, the whitener. Shahayu boy gamkin chavdal sha'arim. That the Beis Hamikdash also had 24 gates. Keneged sha'arim hol again corresponding to the supernal gates, the gates above in the spiritual realms. Nimtza. So it comes out from this. But Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, Niskayim Kira, the Samti Kad Koid Sham Shoy Sayich in Yeshaya. What does it mean? And I will make your windows of rubies. What's Kad Koid? Chavdalad? 24, 24. Chavdalad, Lekabel Chavdalad. 24 by 24. 24 gates down here correspond to the 24 gates above. Period. End of explanation of what Moshe Rabbeinu was asking for. Simple. That's why he wanted to enter Eretz Yisrael. To make a tikkun, to sweeten. What kind of sweetening did he just want to pour in sugar? and then stir it up and that would make it sweet, or did he want to transform it by like slow cooking the onion? I don't know, but he wanted to transform it. He wanted to sweeten the sin of Chava or Adam and Chava. The Nachash brought in a moral contamination, spiritual corruption, where we could no longer see clearly. The emes, the truth, was obscured. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I need to rectify that, but to do that, I have to be in Eretz Yisrael. The only way I can access the necessary koyach is to be in the Holy Land, because that's 24, which is the luchos. We mentioned 21 through all the things. The 24, the luchos being 24 tefachim total.
What about the time for mashmaros? You didn't mention that.
He did not mention that. No.
Interesting. It's not
Good. Good. Didn't mention. That's corresponding to the 24 gates, though. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's what mashmaros
If you want to know, it's Abdecha. They changed the order a little bit of some of the words here, but the Chabad says the Kisei, the Vil Abdecha, and here it's just
Who's it done?
Kisei Gaber anywhere else. It's
So
all
these are definitely
Abdecha is the extra
the
word.
fifth. Shkaya.
Okay.
Good trivia there.
Okay. So what would the Alter Rebbe say about this? Alter Rebbe made that nusach of Tefillah. He looked through 6 Nedurim of Kabbalah, Dikduk, and Halacha before he put together the nusach that we call nusach Harid, the nusach of the Alter Rebbe, the Tils Hashem Siddur. It wasn't the Tils Hashem Siddur then, but so what would he say to this? I don't know.
I'm not gonna make it up.
Yeah, we don't have to guess. We don't have to guess. Exactly. So he says, so that's what Moshe asks. He says, I need the koyach of the luchos, which is each one of the luchos is 6 by 6. That's 12 tvachim. There's 2 of them, that's 24 tvachim. And everything's ve'eva, ve'eva, ve'eva. We kept coming back to those Rosh Hashanahs kept appearing over and over and over again. Wild stuff. How did he find this? How did he find all this stuff? Again, probably because Eliyahu Hanavi appeared to him, like it says on his actual tombstone. Anyway, Hashem says, no, you're not allowed to enter Eretz Yisrael. That's what Hashem tells him. The Hey Shiva Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Rav Loch, enough. Which again, Rav Loch is Gematria 252, which is our 252 interpretations on this pasuk. Enough. Rav Loch, you asked enough already. Meaning, Hashem's not saying you're a nudnik. Stop it. Somebody's saying. He's saying, Vana sisi ratzoncha. I did exactly what you asked, Hashem tells him. Asher Marti, Solachti, I told you, I forgave everybody. Solachti, I've forgiven, Kidvarecha, just like you asked. What did I do? The Herachti of an Egel Achavdal Deidos, I spread out the sin of the Egel for 24 generations. That's when we said that at the end of that 24 generations was the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. So I drew that out. That's one thing of 24. Then I gave you the luchos, shehim gamkin soid chavdalid, which is also the secret of 24. Again, because each luach is 6 by 6, and that's 12 that's each one is 12. That's 24. The gam basis ha'egel. I don't know what he means exactly. But gam basis ha'egel. Not sure what he means exactly by that. The gam b'chavdalid svarim shekibul Moshe v'Ar and the 24 books that Moshe received, meaning the 24 books of Tanakh, even though they weren't necessarily all given per se at Sinai. But they at least the Shadish at least of all, it was at Sinai given to Moshe. Did Martam v'zois ha'Torah? It says v'zois ha'Torah, right? V'zois ha'Torah asher sam Moshe. What's v'zois? Begimatria. What's the gematria? V'zois 414 is begimatria chov dal svarim. That's the gematria of the 24 svarim. I'm going to see in a second. I know it's not gematria 24. I think this is how it works, by the way. It's the gematria of the chov dal svarim asher also Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. That with those 24, Bazeh Zocha le Makor Chaim. And what's Makor Chaim? The Gematria Hachi Avi. Now, it took me a while to figure out what he's saying over here. The Gematria of Makor Chaim is 414. And the Gematria of Vizois is 414. So I think that's what he's saying. That Vizois HaTorah, Vizois means the Makor Chaim, the source of life. I gave you, huh?
415.
Did I do the math wrong again?
Yeah.
I did it wrong. 400 and 1. It's 406 and 7. No, it's 414. It's 414. So he's saying, I gave you V'zois HaTorah. And what's V'zois HaTorah? What's V'zois? The Makor Chaim, the source of life. I gave you the source of life already. I gave you everything you need. So what you're asking for, Hashem says to him, I took care of already. So you don't need to go into Eretz Yisrael. Lachin, therefore, I'll toisev daber elai oi b'davar hazeh. Enough. Don't talk to me about this anymore. I did what you asked already. You want to make a tikkun, you want to sweeten, and you claim you need to go into Eretz Yisrael for that. I gave you everything you need already. I gave you the Torah. I gave you the luchos. I stretched out the sin of the egel for 24 generations. What you're asking for, you've already received. And I don't know what he means. The next piece I don't know what it means. He says, Al toisav dabar elai oid b'davar zeh. Don't speak to me more. Oid daika, more. I'm not sure exactly what he means. Oid means you could speak to me. I don't know what it means. Don't speak to me more. I'm not sure exactly what he's saying by that. Meaning that you received the luchos already. You got the luchos, which is 24. You got it, right? So don't speak to me more about it. There's no necessity to draw this out and ask for something extra because you have exactly what you need. So that, my friends, is way number 208 of interpretation of the Megaleh Amukos on Parshas Vaschana in the beginning. Moshe's request to enter the land and Hashem denying the request, explaining what Moshe was asking for, and Hashem saying no. And it's Hashgacha Pratis that the Megaleh Amukos passed away on the 13th of Av, the week of Parshas Vaschana. He wrote the Sefer for it. He wrote others for him too, as he mentioned, but the Sefer became famous for. And what is the takeaway from all of this? I have no idea what the takeaway from this is, but I just thought it would be geschmack to learn. However, maybe, just maybe, we could say that in a certain way, we're like Moshe, that we sometimes feel that we have something we need to accomplish. And I think I have to go to Eretz Yisrael, whether I mean literally or metaphorically. I need more. I need something I don't have. If I had what he had, if I had the greater spirituality, if I was a bigger Talmud Chacham, if I was a nicer person, whatever it may be, then I could do it. Hashem says to him, I gave you everything you need already. So maybe, the Megaleh Amukos doesn't say that, but maybe that's something we could think for ourselves. Sometimes when we think what I want to do and I don't have the koifes for it, Hashem says to Moshe, hello, I gave you everything already. I put it on the table. I gave you v'zois HaTorah. I gave you everything you need. So maybe sometimes when we underestimate ourselves, we could think about Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Chabibi, I gave you what you need. You have the Torah, you have everything you need. So maybe in a certain way also, that's a message we could take from this. That sometimes we have this concept that if only I was somewhere else. If only I was in Eretz Yisrael. Again, whether literally or metaphorically. If only I had something I don't have. If only I was smarter, stronger, better looking. If only I had an apartment in Ramat Beit Shemesh.
If I was a rich man.
If I was a rich man. Maybe the answer just might be, Habibi, v'zois HaTorah, you have what you need. You have what you need. You have to find it. You have to look for it and uncover it. We should be zeicher to be Megaleh Amukos. We should be zeicher to uncover, to reveal the depths of our neshamas, reveal the depths of the churban, and that God willing, he speaks in Mamish B'Ashgach, but he speaks about the churban in this piece. He speaks about the Tisha B'Av and Eicha. We should be zeicher to reveal the depths and the ultimate depth, of course, the depth of our neshama, which will bring in the era of the coming of Mashiach, maybe very speedily. Thank you for everyone for joining on a Monday. Comments or questions before we have a siyum? Kind of, I told you it was a wild ride. You could undo your seatbelt now if you like. And now we're going to be zeicher to have Mitzvah siyum from our dear Chaver Reb Tzvi, who's going to make a siyum Mitzvah on Masechta Tainis.
Abducha is 96, which is 1494.
Okay. It's wild how he just
Crazy.
just like keeps going.
You think you